So lower lumens.
Right.
But it looks brighter down range.
Which doesn't make sense, you know, in your head initially, right? It's like it goes less lumens, but it goes further. And it's like, yes, that's kind of where what it works like.
I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by SDS Imports, Guns and Gear, Silencer Central, Range Ready, Vortex Optics, Stag Arms, and Ruger. All right, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. Today on Gun Talk Nation, we got our good buddy Andrew Wright. Welcome in, man.
Thank you for having me.
SureFire lights, suppressors. We've been doing stuff for years with you guys. I think one of the things, what do people on the street, when you're at a general public show, what do they say about SureFire to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we make so many different products. You know, one person will know us specifically for our flashlights. Another person will know us, you know, for our suppressors. Somebody else for our ear pro. But generally speaking, you know, in America, the most common thing consumers know us for is bomb-proof flashlights, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that's interesting to me, because I mean, you guys do work with all the elite military, a ton of law enforcement, and then the consumers kind of get the benefit of like these really, like you said, bomb-proof lights that are built in the United States. I think people who don't have experience with SureFire don't understand like the quality level that you guys do, because if you don't know better, like a light's a light. Like, oh, I got some flashlights. Like, no, this is like a different level.
So yeah, exactly. And like you said, all of our manufacturing is in the States, so we can control every part of the quality control process, because that's the most important thing to us. We know that our products, you know, often are going into harm's way and people need to rely on them potentially with their lives. So we do a whole lot of testing, R&D, to make sure we're building the most reliable, most durable products we can. We have an entire division that just tests these, you know, where they're freezing lights, baking lights, dropping lights, doing, you know, beating them up. We have shake tables. We do live fire testing on all of our weapon lights. We do an extensive amount of testing to make sure we're building the most solid product that people can depend on.
Is there something in the endurance testing that is the hardest test?
Usually the shake table or the drop test will break things probably more than, you know, the heat or the freeze cycles. Those are more strenuous on batteries than anything. But as far as actual like the components of the light, it's definitely more impact related.
Yeah. Waterproof?
Yep, it depends on, you know, we have a bunch of different lights in our product line. Some of the rechargeable ones that have charging ports might have a lower standard. Some lights that are better sealed and we built for specific requirements for military. You know, sometimes you need to dive with things, have a higher IPX rating. But generally speaking, most of our entire product line is IPX7 at least. Okay. And that's waterproof, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. You're a guy who, I mean, you shoot, and that probably people have heard me say this on the show before. Not everyone in the gun industry is super into guns and shooting or hunting. Some people are just good at marketing, right? And that's okay. But you're a shooter. What you been shooting lately? Competitive shooting?
Yeah, honestly, haven't been shooting as much as I want to. Mainly lately, I've been shooting rifle. And that's just because I have some friends, you know, Barry at SureFire as well, and some other buddies that have been practicing for the World Rifle Shoot that's coming up in a week or so in Finland. And so I've been shooting a lot of AR rifle practice just because that's the, you know, helping them get tuned up and get ready.
Is that like kind of speed shooting? That's not like a PRS type of thing.
No, it's like IPSC. It's like a, if you looked at, you know, USPSA multi-gun type of a format, meaning it's hit factor scoring.
Yeah. But it's with an AR.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's certain people that shoot other platforms, but definitely the ARs are the leading platform for rifle shooting. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the, so you've been doing some of that, training with that? Do you run a can on that?
Generally, no. Most people are all running muzzle brakes, just because you want the gun to be lighter, and the muzzle brake is absolutely the best way to reduce your muzzle rise and recoil. So, I mean, these are gamer guns, so to say. So you're not really worried about concussion and noise and flash. You're definitely more trying to have the gun be have as little movement and the sights stay on target. And they're doing sporty stuff out to 300, on really reduced targets potentially. So it's pretty cool.
I've gotten, in the last several years, I have really gotten an appreciation for what good muzzle brakes can do on an AR. And you guys make good ones, and you have kind of a variety of them. Talk about that, because a lot of people listen to this probably own ARs, and probably a lot of them have whatever came on the gun. And it's like a bird cage, kind of like mil-spec standard thing. Talk about like the difference between that and like really putting a muzzle brake on that's going to help control recoil.
Yeah, that's a great point. Right out of the box, everybody pretty much has an AR, and the stock flash hider is okay. It does a good job moderately of reducing flash. But we have several options depending on what you're trying to do with the rifle. If it's, a competition type gun, or it's a play gun and you just want the best overall performance, like a muzzle brake is awesome for, again, reducing the recoil and keeping the muzzle flat and on target. So reducing your muzzle rise as well. You are going to get a little bit of increase in flash with a muzzle brake in the daytime. You really don't notice it at all.
Yeah, you don't notice it, but you don't care.
And you don't care. At night, you'll definitely see it a little bit more, which some people might like. But if it's a defensive firearm, maybe not the best option for you.
And it is a good point. A flash hider is not necessarily a muzzle brake.
No. Yeah. So a muzzle brake, typically you have ports where basically it's like, think of a wall with a door in it, and the bullet's flying through the door. The gases following the bullet are going to hit that wall, and that's pushing forward on the rifle at the same time the recoil is happening. So it's just kind of mitigating the recoil of the rifle. And then usually there's some ports, like on ours, at the top that help reduce your muzzle rise.
Yeah, they kind of push the muzzle down with the gases going up.
Exactly.
And then another thing is, you don't have what we're talking about is you're shooting an AR, and it's not like, just ride the gun, just let the gun come up. No, you're looking through your optic at the target, shooting multiple shots, boom, 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 and you never come off of the target, right?
No, it's absolutely planted.
Yeah, I mean, talk about like one of the easiest things you could do to improve your shooting experience with an AR. I mean, you unscrew one, you screw on the other one.
Exactly. And so we have a couple different options in different calibers, 5.56, 30 cal, and we have two main muzzle brakes. We have our SFMB, which is like our SOCOM series muzzle brakes. And what that means is it's compatible with our entire line of SOCOM suppressors. So if you ever wanted to put a suppressor on the firearm, you could do so. We also have our Pro Comps, which are, the SFMBs are highly precision machined devices because of the compatibility with the suppressors. We need to make sure it's a super tight lockup. There's not going to be point of impact shift. It's really high tolerances that we have to hold. And therefore, it's a pretty strenuous manufacturing process. It makes it a little more expensive. The Pro Comps are just for people that want a muzzle brake and have no plans of ever putting a suppressor on the rifle. And therefore, it's not nearly as high tolerance as we hold with those, and they're a lot more affordable. So it's a really good option for those that just want to throw a muzzle brake on a rifle and never have a plan of putting a suppressor on it. And then we also have flash hiders. We have open prong and closed tine flash hiders that do a better job than the standard bird cage. If you really want to make that rifle disappear, nowadays more people are hunting at night, night vision stuff, hog hunting, whatever it might be. And if you're trying to reduce signature visually as much as possible, we definitely have the best options there as far as flash hiders go. And then there's a third option, which is we call them our war comps. And it's like a combination muzzle device.
Does both things pretty well.
It does both things pretty well. Yeah, we like to call it a directionally controlled flash hider. We have, again, two options available. We have the War Comp Sport, which is a muzzle device that cannot take a suppressor. Therefore, it's much more cost effective. Again, if you're just looking for an optimal muzzle device, but you don't plan on putting a suppressor on the rifle. And then we have our War Comp, our standard War Comp, which is a suppressor-compatible muzzle device. But essentially what it is our three-prong flash hider, does a super killer job. It's like literally 99% reduction in flash.
Wow.
But it has some ports at the top of it and at the side of it. And it basically reduces and actually completely neutralizes your muzzle rise. So recoil is still going to be present. There's none of those walls like a muzzle brake has.
Right.
But the rifle completely stays flat and on target. It's super nice to shoot. And that's the most important part, right? Staying on target. I can deal with the recoil, but I don't want the muzzle to leave the target. And so the ability of it to do that while reducing your flash, it's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, because usually you can kind of have one or the other,
right?
Because they kind of go against each other in certain ways depending on how you manufacture it.
Generally speaking, yeah. Most things there's no free lunch, and this does a really good job of both.
Yeah. Well, I know you also like to train, have been to lots of training courses. So after the break, let's talk about training with lights and how you do that. Aero Precision, known for helping you do gun builds, especially AR-15s, and they're still knocking out their monthly limited edition builder sets. It's going to stand out at the range among your family and friends when you're shooting. You got to go check out their builder sets, and even if you miss out on this one, the next one's going to be really cool, because every single month I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool too. You can learn more over at aeroprecisionusa.com. Vortex Optics. At this point, who doesn't know Vortex Optics? They make rifle scopes, they make binos, they make rangefinders, they make a bunch of different stuff. One of their new lines is the Viper HD family, and I'm looking at the 2-10 optic because it just looks like a scope you could just do pretty much everything with. Deadhold BDC MOA reticle with a 30 millimeter tube. When success rides on the perfect shot, rely on the exceptional versatility and optical performance of the Viper HD. From big game to predators, there's a proven model for every hunting application. Each member of the Viper HD family delivers outstanding image clarity, resolution, and sharpness to ensure your target comes into view with sharp detail. Lots of different size scopes here, different magnifications. You can learn more over at vortexoptics.com. RangeReadyStudios.com is where you go to find out about our classes that we're putting on here at the Gun Talk headquarters. And we've got a couple that are sold out recently, but we have more coming. So what you need to do is go over there, sign up for the email alerts, and you'll be the first to find out about our new class schedule coming in the fall. RangeReadyStudios.com. So Andrew, I mean, obviously you guys are known for the lights. You do a lot of training, and you really, I think you're a guy who appreciates going to training courses and working with good trainers. Over the years, I mean, what are we seeing with lights on guns these days? Has it changed over the course of 10, 15 years? I mean, what are we seeing lately?
Yeah, so as far as tactics go, I don't think a whole lot has changed in low light training, generally speaking. I think what's cool is as technology has progressed, and as you've seen with the weapon lights getting smaller and smaller, it is much more common nowadays for people to EDC a handgun weapon light than ever previously. I mean, there's more options for holsters, and it's a really cool progression to see people, taking that in. It used to be people thought you were a dork,
yes.
Or whatever, but
because basically what they're probably carrying is like an X300 on, it has to be probably a pretty good sized pistol. And like, if you're that guy, like that's when you get the nickname Tackleberry, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. And there's those guys out there, and I commend you for carrying a full size gun. And
I want him near me.
Right.
Yeah. You have lots of ammo.
Right. Exactly. But, practically speaking, I think most of us carry a smaller gun on a daily basis, and there's more and more options that fit those smaller guns really nicely. They don't add a whole lot of bulk. You get all the advantages of having a handgun weapon light,
Yeah.
Obviously, a handheld light, our stilettos, for example, phenomenal. You need to have an EDC flashlight, or you should. And the handheld flashlight's the mandatory piece, right? You need to be able to investigate a sound. You can't be pulling the gun out to see what's going on.
I mean, I carry a light every day. You do too. Probably a lot of people listen to this. You use it so often that it's ridiculous. Like it's not, and 99% of the time it's not a tactical use. It's just, you have this kind of superpower that you could see in the dark because you always have a flashlight with you. It's like really weird concept.
It's huge. I mean, and I hear this from customers all the time, whether we're at trade shows or whatever. And, they don't realize what they were missing out on until they start carrying a high quality light on a daily basis. Obviously people are like, oh, I got a cell phone light. That's good, right?
Yes.
And it is so much nicer to be able to actually see what's going on with a high output light. Emergency situations as well. If you have to change a tire in the dark and you have a light you can put on constant on and actually work with for a duration and see what's going on, or a tactical scenario. I mean, all of them are super important to have a good quality light with you.
I had one just the other day, and I can't remember what I was doing, but it was dark, and I realized I had the stiletto on. And I'm trying to do this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, I can clip this on my hat. And it has the clip. Yes, it's a pocket clip, but it also works as a hat clip on the brim of your ball cap, which probably some people don't realize.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The standard stiletto, all of them can do that as well. The baseline stiletto is really good for that specifically because of that polymer body, makes it super lightweight, and actually is a really good makeshift headlamp in a pinch.
Yeah.
So that's a great use for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. What about on rifles? You've got the Scout lights, and now you've got the Turbo series, which we got to talk Candela and the wave of Candela. I mean, geez, but it's when you see it in action, it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's funny. So as far as lumens and Candela, I mean, we can cover that real quick. Lumens is generally overall brightness, whereas Candela is peak beam intensity. It basically just is a measurement that is indicative of how far the beam is going to go. So it's a way on paper for you to understand what the light's going to look like, which is kind of a really difficult thing to look at on paper. It's almost like, looking at horsepower and torque ratings. It gives you a better understanding of how that motor performs when you look at that. Yeah. So the Turbo series are super high Candela. They're focused on being, a tight beam pattern that's going to reach out further. So if you compare our standard Scout light with a Turbo series Scout light, the standard Scout light has 1,000 lumens and roughly 12,000 Candela.
Okay.
Whereas the Turbo series variant is 100,000 Candela and 650 lumens.
So lower lumens.
Right.
But it looks brighter down range.
Which doesn't make sense, in your head initially, right? It's like it goes less lumens, but it goes further. And it's like, yes, that's kind of what it works like. One of our engineers explained it to me as like a hose, a garden hose putting out water, right?
Sure.
You just have water coming out with the hose fully open. If you put your thumb over it, less water is technically coming out, but it's going further. And that's kind of the same with what LEDs. You want a point emitter, so a smaller emitter. You want it to sit a little deeper. So less real estate for output, so a little bit less lumens, but it's going to go much further. It's kind of an interesting way to visualize lumens and Candela. But yeah, that's what our Turbo series has been based on. There's been a lot of emphasis in the tactical world with far-reaching lights and higher Candela output. And people think, we were late to the game on this, and it's funny. That's why we've continued the name Turbo series, because we've been doing this since the 90s. Originally, our lights were focused on that, and then due to end user feedback, we started getting broader and wider
beam pattern. You can light up a room and indoors. Hodgdon, they're the gunpowder people, and one of the ones that people really like is Hodgdon CFE BLK, CFE Black, optimized for 300 AAC blackout subsonic loads, but it's also ideal for the 17 Hornet, 7.62x39, 221 Fireball. So you have some options on things that you can load with this powder. One of the cool things about this, the CFE contains the copper fouling eraser ingredient, originally used in military propellant, which greatly deters copper fouling and contributes to longer periods of top accuracy with less barrel cleaning time. We like this. Go check them out over at Hodgdon.com. Military Armament Corporation, MAC. They make a lot of different kind of reproduction guns. The one that's really hot right now is the MAC 5 pistol. MAC 5 pistol, as in the MP5. Yeah, the MP5 from a different gun company, but this is actually made on a lot of the same tooling. You'll have to look it up. Arguably one of the most iconic firearms of the modern era. And they've done a really nice job with this. I mean, it's roller delayed blowback action. It comes with two 30-round magazines, the cleaning kit, and a lot of true and accurate features like a tri-lug flash hider, trigger lock, all that stuff. So go check them out. millarmamentcorp.com for the Mac 5 pistol. Tune in to watch the new season of Guns and Gear on air now on Outdoor Channel and Sportsman Channel, or you can find it online. Guns and Gear brings viewers the newest innovations throughout the firearms industry. New guns, new gear, optics, ammo, all that stuff. Go check it out. Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, and of course, online. Ruger, one of the popular ones, one of the kind of cool, fun ones they're doing is the Ruger LC Charger. It's chambered in 5.7 by 28, low recoiling cartridge available in an array of options for target shooting, small game, personal defense. It's kind of a large format pistol, and you kind of have to see it to understand it, but it's a 10.3 inch barrel. So let that sink in for a second. Yes, it's a threaded barrel. Yes, they have a CNC milled handguard that works with M-Lock, full-length pick rail on top for optics. Just a fun, cool gun. The whole thing only weighs 66 ounces. So go check it out over at Ruger.com. Now, people will think of a turbo and go, okay, I got it. I put it on my rifle. I can light up a target really easily at 100 yards or even further. But there are other uses for a turbo light in closer situations, right?
Yeah, so we hear a lot of feedback from domestic law enforcement of the ability to see through tinted windows, which is a common occurrence on, traffic stops and whatnot. Yep. So the focus beam does tend to have a better effect at punching through those tinted windows. Maybe it's a patrol guy and it's daylight outside and they're trying to see into a dark structure. Having that focus beam does a really good job of kind of pushing through that photonic barrier, they say.
It cuts through.
So you can see a little further into a structure or a dark cave, whatever it may be. So yeah, there's absolutely multiple applications.
That's a tricky deal. You guys are just killing it. These lights are so good and so durable. Let's be honest. They're not the cheapest products out there, and you guys don't make any apologies about it. It's like, yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
But once people try it out, it feels like they become a SureFire guy or gal.
And that's 100%. That's what we found. Once we get a customer, we have a customer for life. And, our founder has always said, we do not build to a price point. We build to a quality standpoint. We don't want to put our name on something we don't believe in. And so we don't cut corners as far as quality goes. We just build the best things that we can, and the price ends up being kind of where it's at. So
yeah,
and that's a fine place for us to be.
Yeah. Is there any product that you guys are doing, or maybe it doesn't have to be new, maybe it's something that's been out there. You've been with the company long enough that you're familiar with all of it. Is there one that you feel like people are not aware of that they maybe should be? One that's like, oh man, this is such a cool product, but people they're not noticing it?
That's an interesting question. I think generally speaking, kind of the rightfully so, the most popular lights are probably pretty accurate, if that makes sense. One of my favorite lights that is often overlooked because we've made it for so long is just a standard G2X. And a G2X is kind of like our entry-level handheld flashlight. It's one of our most affordable flashlights. It's got a polymer tail cap, a polymer body, and it's 600 lumens. We make a bunch of different models, whether it's tactical or like our Pro series, which is a low and then a high. That's my favorite, the G2X Pro in yellow of all colors.
Yes.
Because if you drop it, you can find it. I have those in the door of my truck. I have them everywhere around the house. I have them in my backpacks. That's my favorite light, and I think it does kind of get overlooked with some of the more high-end lights that we have. But the G2X is awesome. Another one is probably our whole entire suppressor line. And I saw you at NRA show.
Yep.
And we have so many customers still to this day that come by and don't realize we've been making suppressors for over 20 years.
Yeah. And really good ones.
And some of the best ones. Yeah.
Man, thanks for being with us. It's good to get the updates on SureFire. If you don't have a SureFire light, you need to check it out. They're high quality. And if you don't carry a light every day, I don't know what have you been doing, but once you do start carrying a light every day, you're going to go, oh, see, Ryan and Andrew were right.
You'll see the light, literally.
Oh, geez. All right. And that means we're done.
All right.
That's it for us. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.